What is up, everybody, and welcome to this episode of the Start Build Grow Show. I'm excited for this one. We have a first time this has ever happened on the show today, and I'll talk to you about that in just a sec. But today we're just diving deep. We're two roofers, been doing this a long time, and my guest today has an amazing story and amazing journey, and he's done some amazing things and built a really successful roofing company, top 100 last year. So really excited to share his story. So you're going to want to stay tuned. All right, everybody. I know I teased it a little bit, but this is a first for the Start Build Grow Show. It's the first time we've had another Randy on the show. So be careful. Don't steal it from me too bad, my man. But hey, Randy Hurtado, thank you so much for joining us, man. I know you've been on a lot of shows. You've been around the industry a long time, and I'm grateful for your time today. And I'm looking forward to hanging out with you, man, having an awesome conversation. Thanks for joining us.
Absolutely. Thanks for inviting me.
Heck yeah, man. So Randy Hurtado out of what DT Roofing. Out of Granbury, Texas. I got that right? I guess you can have some multiple locations, I believe. You kind of cover a pretty wide spectrum out there in Texas. But before we get into kind of what you're doing now, I always like to start with a little bit of a journey. I mean, this show's all about the entrepreneurial journey. And you're an entrepreneur, I'm an entrepreneur, and I know you've done a lot of really cool things. So let's take it back as far as you want to go, man. How did you get started? And walk me through your journey, what led you into the roofing space.
Well, when I was a 14-year-old, I had a paper route. I'm just kidding.
You know what? I've heard that one many times. That's a lot of us start with some sort of hustle when we were kids. You know, I will ask you that. What was your hustle? Like a paper route, but what was your hustle? I feel like most people I interview,
had a few.
There was a hustle as a kid. What was it?
So I had a few, actually. I always knew that I was going to, I'll put it this way. I hate when people say I always knew, because you don't always know. But I was not surprised when, as an adult, I landed as an entrepreneur, because when I was a kid, I was always looking for ways to make money. I use a joke from a Christian comedian, Michael Jr. We weren't poor, we were po. We couldn't afford the other O or R. And so my mom worked very hard. She had 4 boys. For a while, she was doing it single. And so if we wanted anything outside of just the norm, food and shelter, then we had to make it happen. And so, early on, going throughout all the neighborhoods that, I lived in, and cutting grass. And my very first shot at true entrepreneurship was about 16 years old. I would charge all of my friends to install their car audio stuff. So they would buy the car audio components, and they would bring their car to my house and drop it off. And then I would install everything. And I still remember going down to, I don't remember if it was Office Depot or Staples, and getting business cards called Phantom Sounds. That was the name of the company that I created. And I was so proud to have a 500 box of Phantom Sounds cards, passing those things out to everybody I knew, to letting them know, hey, if you need car audio installed, I'm your man. And that ultimately grew into a series of jobs from 18 to 22, of everything from being Chuck E. Cheese at Chucky. I was actually the costume character, to a loss prevention officer. I arrested people for shoplifting. And it wasn't until 22, about 22 years old, that I got into what I would say was my first career, which is IT security. Okay. And I did that for over 20 years. I worked for a company that helped Fortune 50 through Fortune 500 companies mitigate risk from outside actors, so bad actors. And so we'd go in, we would assess their environment, their network environment, tell them where their vulnerabilities were. And then we had solutions, obviously, that would mitigate those vulnerabilities, so that they can keep bad guys out, keep bad guys that are inside their organization from getting information out. And I had the unique position of dealing with a lot of the federal government. So it wasn't abnormal for me to spend a couple of weeks at a time at the Pentagon, working with Office of Secretary of Defense. Wow. And showing them where they're and you'd think that's because it's our federal government, they have the latest and greatest, but man, that is one of the best places to find the most dinosaur technology. uh, what it is, they often will implement something and then they don't want to shift from it, so they're keeping that AS400 admin in a closet that still smokes on oxygen just to keep that system around. um,
And
and
you're
it
one of
was
the smart roofers. Most of us are, just swinging a hammer too long, and we're dumb enough one day to start a business. So you actually, are smart and like can use technology and computers, and
so
you don't catch that very often. I love it.
self-taught. I didn't go to college, couldn't afford to. So a lot of what I learned was just all my colleagues thought I was weird that I would always take the developers in our company out to lunch. And I had ulterior motives, and that was I can pick their brain while they're eating. And so I would learn as much as I possibly could. I'm very hands-on. You give me a book and tell me to learn something, I'm probably not going to do it. But if I'm asking questions and I can kind of envision what they're saying and then try it out in the software and it works, then I'm going to become an expert at it. And that's how I was successful in that world. Is oftentimes when I'd go out to clients, they would expect the sales guy and the engineer. And I was kind of wrapped in one. They would ask like, okay, is it just you? Yep. I'm not, I'm coming along. And, or if I did bring an engineer because they preferred, the engineer oftentimes would just sit there quiet because I would be able to answer all of the questions that they had pertaining to the project. And so always been a self-starter for the most part. And it wasn't until 2015 when my largest customer, my largest project that I had been with for about 18 years, they got bought by a private equity, and they no longer needed my services. And so it was a classic example of help a company get to where they'd love to be. And then once they got there, then I was dropped. And it wasn't just me, it was a lot of different staff members. And although I was very happy for the owner because he busted his butt for many, many years to get to that position where he can be bought out. He didn't get exactly decide what the private equity company who bought him out was going to do with the rest of the staff. So I don't really blame them, but it gave me an opportunity to pivot. And here I am today, one of the top 100 roofing companies in the United States. And God's been so good.
Congrats, man. I love that. And there's a handful of things to unpack there. And I think, I like when there's stories that are outside of our space, because I intentionally have trying to, over the last few years, I really try to branch out. And I joined like an EO group, and I'm joining like different groups to try to connect and surround myself with other entrepreneurs with different backgrounds, different businesses, different types of things, just to learn and gain more knowledge, right? I feel like we tend to get in this little bubble of the roofing or the construction industry and the service industry and just stay there. So I'm trying to be intentional about branching out. And I think one of the things that you mentioned was you just kind of had a natural instinct to identify the people around you that knew and had knowledge that you didn't have, that you wanted to have. So you took the initiative to take them to lunch, to go out and find a way to learn more things, right? And I think there's a massive lesson there for maybe a young entrepreneur or someone who wants to, learn how to level up themselves. And you got to have tenacity. You got to be able to be uncomfortable, find the person around you that knows what you want to know, and just ask them.
That's
and
it.
Put yourself in an environment. And man, I was just at a car show at church. We had at our church for Father's Day yesterday. We had a car show, and it was a lot of fun. And we're out there hanging out, and I got to bring up my cars, and it was fun, And this young gentleman came up and just started, chatting with me, and it was really interesting because he asked me, some things about business and just, and he was like, so he asked me. It was very interesting how he said it, because he asked me, how do I find mentors? Like, what do you do to find mentors? And I was like,
you're doing it,
my friend.
That's
you
right.
are doing it. And that's the type of kid that I'm like, absolutely, I will make time for you.
Yep.
I gave him my number, texted him later. Like he sent me a little Father's Day gift. Like, that's the type of kid that I want to pour into, because that's the person that is just that humble, hungry, they're smart, they want to make things happen, and they have that it factor of being willing to walk up to somebody you don't know one iota and start a conversation, ask them what they do, and start asking them to lean in and find mentorship. And I think that's so powerful. It's free. It doesn't cost you anything.
Nope.
Go find mentors. We have to have mentors. And
It's even harder.
Go
Yeah,
ahead.
it's even harder to find that in the youth because they're so attached to their social media, their phones and everything. They forgot how to communicate with live people. And so how many times, I don't know how many times growing, I have 6 kids, and one of their friends is going to go with us somewhere. And I'm like, hey, it's 1:30. We got to go. Call your friend, find out where they're at. Okay, I'll text them. No. Call him.
Yeah.
They don't want to get on the phone, and they don't want to have a conversation period is awkward. So if you're 18 to, I'd say even is 30.
Yeah, right.
18 to 30, and you have the ability to talk to people, you already have a one-up in this in the entrepreneurial world, because there's, especially in the sales world, because that's a art that is being lost with this generation.
And there's a lot of books in our generation, and I guess we're both dating ourselves here now, but like there's a lot of books coming up, like growing up and early, and even over the last few years that I've read that been around for many years, like how to win friends and influence people, and like read books about communications.
Absolutely.
And it's so much like, no matter what you do in life, you're going to be an entrepreneur, go work for somebody, be a salesperson, be a technician, whatever it is. If you can truly put some energy and effort into mastering the art of communication and connecting with people and learning how the different types of people work, and really there's so many tools and stuff out there. And I've been really intrigued by this. And part of what we do, as I switched my second career as a coach and a consultant, like I lean into that a lot. And we're all about like the different personality styles and different personalities. And that's such a great way to just find happiness, find success in your marriage, in your life, in your business. Like, learn how to communicate. And I can't stress that enough, how important that is. And I think a lot of us skip that. And we're in a generation now where it's kind of the norm to not be a good communicator.
That's absolutely true. I like to tell people that I mentor that 2 things in business that you must have to be successful is communication and relationships. Everything else is just a widget, a service. It's assumed that you're going to be good at it. If you're not good at it, you don't need to be doing it. So it's not enough that, I'll see guys online all the time there. How many of you roofing owners are actually roofers that have ever picked up a hammer before? And well, I've done things more difficult than that. I'm a retired fireman. I put some time into the state guard. So I don't think the whole masculinity thing needs to be pulled in. You could be the best roofer ever, but if you suck at communication and relationships, you're always going to be the guy holding the hammer and never the guy leading the charge with a whole group of guys holding the hammer, so that they can do what they're best at and you can do what you're best at. And so communication and relationships within any company is absolutely paramount.
I absolutely love that. And that'll kind of lean us right into picking back up where we left off. And IT, and thanks for your service as a firefighter. I love that. And so what was the thing? Everybody has a unique story. Like, what was the thing that, how and where and when did roofing find you?
It found me because I was working. So I moved from California. Don't hold it against me. I got here as quick as I could. I moved from California to Texas in 2005. I wanted to get my kids out of California and grow them up in a smaller town in the South. And Texas landed perfect. I had an aunt at the time that lived out here. We came out to visit her, spent 2 weeks, fell in love with the town, immediately told my wife, this is where I want to raise our current kids as well as any future kids. And so we went home, talked to the owner of the company I was consulting for at the time, and said, hey, I know you trust if I worked from home, I would do my job. He goes, absolutely. I said, well, then home doesn't need to be here. I'm going to move to Texas. And he was like, whoa. And it worked out ultimately. It worked out for both of us. Well, the one thing I didn't consider is working from home. This was pre-COVID, where, post-COVID, you work from home, you have dogs barking in the background, the UPS guy ringing the doorbell and kids arguing. It's not a big deal. It's accepted. I get it. But pre-COVID, that was taboo. That was not professional. You don't have kids barking. You don't have dogs barking in the background and kids fighting or anything. You need to be able to control, the environment so that it's as if you were at the office. And that was a problem. I had my office was on the first floor where the living room was, and asking kids to be quiet when they're kids for 3 months when during the summer was rough. And so I just told my wife, I said, look, I need to get out of the house. I need to rent some office space so I can go to work. It was also a psychological thing. I'd wake up, I'd roll out of bed, brush my teeth, get my coffee, and pretty much in my sweatpants and t-shirt, walk over to my desk and start working. And that whole professional feel, got out of bed, went to work, that kind of fell off. And so, long story short, I rented an office space. Well, it happened to be right next door to this roofing company called DT Roofing. And they were a company that had started in 2009, led by my now partner, Derek Tanner. That's where the DT comes from. And Derek started the company originally as a construction company, but out of necessity for revenue, turned it into a roofing company after a huge storm came through and there weren't a whole lot of roofers in the area doing the work. Then he realized he was good at it and started just focusing on roofing instead of building homes. And so right around 2011, 2013 timeframe is when he got serious about roofing, started to do well, but was only able to do it in so big of a capacity because all he really knew was the tactile, the swinging of the hammer. Now he wasn't doing the roofs, but he understood how to get roofs on. He knew.
He was the tactician, right? A master mechanic of.
So he understood that the business side was where, and he would tell you today if he was sitting here, where the whole process was lacking. That was the other thing that was lacking was process. There wasn't a whole lot of process at all. There was a whole lot of paper and pen, but not a whole lot of technology in place. Well, enter the technology guy, the guy that understands technology, uses it for everything. And I knew how to sell. And right around the time that the other company let me go because they didn't need my services anymore because they had 4 or 5 other people in the region with the new private equity that could do what I did. I started talking with Derek and I said, I started learning more and more about roofing. Didn't know anything. My mom had 4 boys. 3 of them were in construction and one of them was a computer nerd. You can figure out which one I was. And so I had a lot to learn. And so I knew the best way to learn was to get out into the field and do it myself. And so I started selling for him and learned everything I could about the insurance process, about the retail process. But the one thing that I did differently, and I didn't realize until years later that I did differently than most roofing salespeople don't do until they're taught how to do it, is in corporate America, in order for you to get in front of people that you want to get in front of, you got to do it via things like LinkedIn, right? And so I had this great process where I would befriend people on LinkedIn, have some brief conversation, gain enough trust that I can meet them for coffee or what have you. And then we'd start to build that relationship, that business relationship, to the point where they were comfortable with me pitching our solutions. And so I didn't understand and didn't even know that door knocking was a thing, or SEO. Didn't really do a whole lot with that. Obviously, when I wasn't running the business, so I didn't have to deal with all that back end stuff. So what I did is I reverted back to my past, which was go out and find other professionals that need the services that I have in order for them to be successful. And then I'll always have a flood of opportunities. So I started writing down which professional types in my immediate vicinity that I could start talking to. The first were real estate agents, second were property managers, and the third were insurance agents. Yep. So instead of going door knocking or waiting for the phone to ring, I started immediately going and building relationships with these people, finding out what their pain points were. That's sales 101, right? And then trying to figure out a way how my services can mitigate their concerns so that I can help them get across the finish line easier with their customer. So with like insurance agents, offering free inspections for every policy that they offer, so that they don't sign a policy for somebody that has a damaged roof already. Because most people don't know, when you sign an insurance policy or you don't think about it, like they never came out to my house to see if there was even a house there. They just let me sign the policy for X coverage. And Well, a lot of insurance companies would sign policies for houses that have damaged roofs on them already. Then some small storm comes through and the person files a claim. Well, the truth is that storm didn't do the damage. The damage was already there. And so what I would do is go in and say, hey, I would like to be your advocate for the roofing. I'll go out and inspect every single person that you are trying to write a policy for and give you a clean bill of health, or let them know what repairs need to be made in order for you to be able to write that policy. Or if it's a full replacement, work with their current insurance company, get the roof bought, get it replaced, and then return them right back to them with a clean bill of health, brand new roof. And they were likely even able to write a better policy for the person because they had a brand new roof. And so I figured out a pain that they had that I never said, give me roofs. I said, how can I help you? And by default, I got roofs. And so really quickly, this $1.8 million a year roofing company turned into a $3.4 million roofing company. And I did the same thing with real estate agents. I did the same thing with property managers. And then we got to about 7.5 million after year 2.5, 3. And then I approached my now partner and I said, listen, I spent almost 20 years helping a company go from about $1 million in revenue to being bought for several tens of millions of dollars. And I found myself without a job one day. I'm not doing it again. So I think I've proven to you in the 3 years that I've been here, 2.5 years that I've been here, that I'm worthy of equity. And we hadn't even got started. I said, if I have equity in something, I work even harder. And it's just a reality. Everybody does most of the time.
Yep.
And there was some pushback initially. It wasn't bad pushback. It was just like, I don't know. It's kind of like you asking me from one of my kids. And I'm like, no, I understand that. I said, but I now understand enough about this industry that it would make sense for me to go out and start my own thing. And I would rather not do that. I'd rather build upon the platform that you've already created and just turn this into a monster. But I have to have equity in order to do that. And so I said, go home, talk to your wife, pray about it. Let me know tomorrow. So he comes back and he said, let's do it. And so since then, we've continued to grow year over year. That was 2017, maybe 18 was when we ended up splitting the revenue down the middle, the equity down the middle. And last year we closed out $30 million in revenue. And so
congrats,
it was,
man. It's a fantastic story.
Praise God. But it was a good choice for both of us, right?
Yeah.
Because I didn't want to start all over, but I knew I could. And he saw what could be. And so he made a wise business decision to say, this makes sense. And so if it didn't make sense, then he wouldn't have done it, And so since then, we've spun off several more companies. I'm not a big fan of just plugging on services onto an existing company because I'm a big believer that it gives multiple messages to your consumer. One, what are you really good at? If you're, DT roofing,
trying to do all the things,
gutters, garage doors, fried chicken, and oil change, like, what are you good at? And so, and then two, if somebody's looking you up on, as I learned more and more about SEO and stuff, it's like, well, I'm much less likely to get that siding job if I'm DT roofing, siding, gutters, garage doors, and fried chicken than Al Siding, who is going to pop up first on the SEO because that's his specialty and that's what the algorithm is going to lean towards. And so we started new companies. They're all DT companies, and that's how we brand them as DT companies because it's an instant. People instantly know. I know that company. Like I don't know Patriot Garage Door and Service, but if they're a DT company, I know those two. I know those guys. They run an amazing roofing company, so I'm going to go ahead and start using them. And so these companies were instant successes because even though they didn't know our services already, they knew if that DT logo was attached to it, then it meant something. And so you can have your cake and eat it too. And don't even get me into what that does for the insurance world when it comes to overhead and profit and stuff. Having your own gutter company instead of working under DT roofing and gutters. Now I get an estimate from my gutter company and submit that in, and then I get overhead and profit on top of that for my roofing company. So there's a lot of business reasons why that's a smart idea, but most of which is recognition.
Yeah, and I think, I mean, man, it's a great story, man. I love following along with you here, and there's so many things to unpack here. One thing I think a lot of people see that idea of, yeah, I can do all the things, right? Or they think, and I know I made this mistake, because like when I first started, I was like, well, I'll do everything, right? We'll do the whole claim, do everything on the claim,
Mhm.
and there's a time and place and a market for that. But where I made the mistake was what you just said. How do you become a master of something if you're trying to dabble in all these things?
Yeah.
So what I learned through trial and error and having to be very intentional of like resetting and saying we are just doing roofing, and we're going to get really, really good at regular old residential roofing, both insurance, retail, like figure that out and get
Yeah.
really good at that. And then once we got really good at that, that's when we were able to start add more things
Mhm.
and adding different verticals within roofing and different divisions. And we have a solar department now and stuff like that, where we couldn't just do all the things without mastering it first. And it came down to great relationships, great people, and great systems.
That's right.
And you can change the widget, right? You can change what it is you're selling if you have the core fundamentals down of,
Right.
and not to mention culture and values, right?
When
Build
you
great
start,
values,
yeah.
great culture,
Mhm.
great systems in place, and give people the keys to the ship when the timing's right. And man, they're going to take it places you never realized you could take it. And it's a prime example of you and your partnership. And I love that you shared that story, because I had a similar situation where I started the company, and the first 3 years I was just hemorrhaging trying to get figured out as a general contractor, trying to do all the things, and stumbled into roofing and roofing sales and insurance claims and all that, and quickly realized that, man, if I'm going to really do this right, I need good people. And my best friend of now over 30 years is my business partner. My sister is my other partner. I have two partners, and they've both worked really hard to help build this business and worked to earn equity in the company. And it's been a great journey, but I think having that trust is
Mhm.
huge up front.
Yes.
But again, and I know you and I both, feel strongly here too, but like, you cannot discredit the faith. Like that, we would not be here if it weren't for a higher power, and
Absolutely.
that's so vitally important. And we want to skip that step as well, right? And think we're doing it on our own, but I don't believe that. I don't believe it's true.
No, no, actually, and people are surprised when I share this with them. But my biggest prayer, and it's a constant one that I pray, is as soon as we forget where it all came from, that He take it all away.
Absolutely. I mean, where we come from is vitally important to where we're going to go. And I believe that I didn't reach certain levels of success because I wasn't mature enough. I wasn't ready enough. I didn't have a relationship good enough in a spiritual journey, on my own spiritual journey, to handle the success and things. I would have made a lot more dumb mistakes. And
Mhm.
now with a focus on impact and helping people and serving the environment and serving our people and our community and all the things, some incredible success has happened. It's been super cool. It's been
Yeah,
been
it's
a really
amazing
fun
when
journey.
the goal is beyond just dollars on where you can go with stuff. The dollars happen, but your focus has to be greater than just monetary success.
Absolutely.
Yes, looking at the revenue, looking at our EBITDA, all of that stuff is important because running a healthy business is important. And it's also biblical. You look at Matthew
Yeah.
25, it talks all about it. But the parable of the talents. But in fact, that's the name of my investment company that I have, Matthew 25 Investments, because it helps us remember, like, just because we've been successful in this one business doesn't mean that we either just let the money sit in the bank account. That would be like burying it, like in the parable, but doing something with it, to continue to grow that success so you can change lives. I love the fact that I see staff members that, we had one sales guy, he was making 40 grand a year as a teacher, and he came to work for us. He owns his no he bought a new home for his family of many, has 5 acres. Like, love to see our staff succeed in life because we were making good decisions as a business, allowing them to thrive at their success or their talents.
Some might call it just a job, but they don't feel the weight of it. Rain, snow, heat, aching bones, and late for dinner again. But you keep climbing because families count on you. Homes stand because of you. And that's why we built Peak Performance, the playbook for progress. Real numbers, real insights, from real contractors like you. Scan the code. It's completely free because it's more than just a job.
I love that you say that. And I think I can correlate and relate to that so much because early in my journey, it was ego. It was about me. It was about money. It was about like being flashy and what I can do to kind of prove everybody wrong, kind of get into my upbringing. I was kind of the, never really fit in anywhere. Like, I'll just prove all these people wrong, and I'll outwork everybody. And it just led to, being really hard on the outside, and then a lot of ego.
Which
and
on its
then
purpose isn't a bad thing. Like having that mindset of I'm just going to work harder than you, but it's where the motivation comes from. If it's just to put it in their face and pull up in that Lamborghini and I made it, you didn't or whatever. That's obviously the wrong approach. But so you got it.
Yeah, and then once I had that revelation of like, no, that's you doing this. Like God gave me some really special talents and gifts and abilities that I'm really grateful for, but I was using them the wrong way. And when I realized that and really started shifting and really focusing on doing things the right way and really putting, taking those talents and creating opportunities, and that's like my purpose, is to create. Literally, I try to create opportunities for people as much as I can, and to serve and help grow really good people succeed. And that's why I went into coaching. It's like I absolutely love when I get to connect with somebody, a young, aspiring entrepreneur that has all the heart and character, and you just give them a few key systems, a key like direction, and help them really understand how to run a business by the numbers and systemize. And then all of a sudden you see them take off. It's every time that happens, I get that's why, right? That is so much fun. And it's not about the money. I don't even make money off that, but I love doing it. When I get a call from somebody saying, hey man, I just, thanks for helping me build this company. I sold it and now my family's taken care of for life. I'm like,
awesome.
That's cool. High five. Yeah. That's why we do what we do. So figuring out that higher purpose and really understanding that was an absolute like game changer in my career. Because again, money comes, money goes. What does it really mean at the end, right? But purpose is what it's all about in my book.
Yep. Yeah, you think about your legacy. When I'm at my funeral, or I'll be at my funeral, but I won't be there. But when people are talking about me, I don't want them to say, "Oh, Randy, he sure knew how to grow businesses and make lots of money." It's like, yeah, that's not what I'm going for. I want my kids to be proud of the dad that they had, and to be able to look back and think about all the ways that our family was able to help other people, and create that legacy for my kids, so that they're continuing that same approach in their life, whether they are in the family business or not. And it's definitely a huge responsibility.
Well, from how I know you and what I know about you, man, you are well on your way. You're doing your thing, and you're having an incredible impact, I know, to your kids and all the people around you. So I'll just, on behalf of myself and the industry, man, thank you for doing what you're doing. That's why I wanted to have you on here and really kind of lean into that, because I think there's some amazing takeaways here. And this isn't here's an easy button to grow your business.
Nope.
And for me, I think the biggest takeaway that I'm getting from our conversation is like, you have to be humble, and you have to get out of your own way, and really understand that there's things that are much bigger than you. And once you can really, really do that and unpack all that, you can really find some success. And not only are you able to do that, but you're going to get people that want to go with you, because you're not going to go at it alone. You're not going to go far. If you want to go fast, go alone. If you want to go far, go together. Right? You have to be able to be a leader that has charisma, that has humility, that has drive, that also people want to serve and want to help and be around you as well. And you don't get that by faking it. You have to be genuine. You got to be real, and you got to truly love and care about other people. And that's the key.
It really is the secret sauce. For those of you that are watching this, that are either just getting into the roofing industry, as an example, or thinking about getting into it, just know right out of the gate, the odds are against you. I was reading a study recently, is the Bureau of Labor Statistics. It was either that or the Small Business Administration. They said 96% of roofing companies fail within the first 5 years.
Yeah.
So the odds are against you already. So if you go in doing it like everybody, the 96 are doing it, you're likely going to meet their same demise. I can promise you, if there was some magic way to Google the 4% of companies that make it, these attributes are likely part of their culture, the way they run their business. Yeah, you can learn through an MBA how to run a business by the numbers. but nothing is ever going to teach. I'm a prime example of that. I never went to college, so I didn't learn any of this. I learned it all by proxy, just being involved around people and learning. But the one thing that was the God-given talent was the ability to ask questions, to build relationships, and communicate well. And you get those things down, and all the rest is just learning the business. But you will build the business off of those attributes.
I love it, man. You must have already either read my mind or you've tuned into the show, because at the end I usually
the name, Randy. It's the name.
I know, man. I usually put you on the spot and ask you for your golden nugget at the end, but you just gave it to me, so I don't know. I'm going to try again and see if there's anything else. But I mean, you've been successful. You've done some amazing things in your business. But if there's one piece of advice that you would give yourself 20 years ago, 10 years ago, when you were kind of getting started, what would that advice be?
20 years ago, I would love to have told myself to get into the roofing industry earlier, because I definitely love serving the end user more than serving the corporation. And I'm not one of these corporate basher guys, but it's more fulfilling, when you're working with that household, or you're working with that business owner who is just trying to make ends meet, and you're able to be a small light to them through some action that you're able to take, whether it's fixing their company roof or their home or what have you. That's very rewarding. I didn't get as much of that. Yes, I would love the fact that when I walked away from an environment that's not likely that they were going to be hacked, at least from that perspective, but it wasn't as rewarding. And so I definitely would have gotten into that. But if you're looking for like that fortune cookie, nugget, I probably just said it. And that is, build your business around the people and how you can serve your customers, and you will be successful. Now, there's a couple of caveats, the little asterisk. You got to be good at what you do, what you're offering.
Absolutely. Yep.
That's a given. That's like, there used to be a time when that was the measuring stick, right? Is this guy's a little bit better at that? This guy, no. You have to be at the top of your game at the service you're providing these days, with the advent of technology and, the internet, everything where people can go and learn how to do things themselves. You have to be the very best at your trade, at your craft, whatever it is. That's the starting point. And then from there, it's how you deliver it, how you execute, what your processes are, the way you treat people. I lose sleep at night when I find out that a customer didn't have a great experience.
Yeah.
And we do 1,500 roofs a year. And
Yep.
if one customer has something negative, and I'm super excited because we just hit 1,000 reviews, 5-star reviews on Google. We still maintain a 5.0 rating, but it still drives me nuts when I'll read a customer that had, sometimes it's perception. Their bad experience was perception. It wasn't intentional, but it still drives me nuts. And it's still just, I lose sleep at somebody having our company's name in their mouth with anything negative following it. And my wife will tell you that. Anybody that knows me personally, it frustrates me. A lot of people are just like, no big deal. I posted something the other day that said that you're not going to please everybody. You're not going to please everybody that you serve, but you better run your business like you're trying to.
Yeah.
Because the reality is that's a fact. Like it's not enough anymore to just say, I have a blue widget. Who needs blue widgets? You have to be different. You have to stand out. Yeah. And it's a great way to stand out is to be genuine, to truly care about the result for the service or the widget, the product that you're offering your customer base.
Yeah. And when you truly care, it just naturally evolves to where your team knows, the team runs alongside you, and your end user knows as well, right? So you can't hide that stuff, right? So
they're not questioning your intention when you say something either, because they know that's genuine.
Yeah, they know you care, right? And the key there too is you really shine when you get things wrong. It's how you, and I say this to clients or even my team as well, is like, we're not going to get it right every time.
It's how
But
you
you want to
respond.
differentiate yourself. It's how you react and how you take ownership when you get it wrong, and
Yeah.
how you learn, how you serve that customer, and how you get better. And
There-
that's
there is a-
key.
There is a hiring nugget I can give that you'll probably have used yourself, but don't hire unless it's a specialty position where the only way you're going to get that position to actually act is if they know how to do it, like marketing or something. But if it's like sales or a position where you're already going to have to teach them how to do it your way internally, don't
Yeah.
hire people based off of attributes that you can train. Hire them for attributes you can't. So take a couple of interviews and learn this person, learn a little bit about them, find out if you're getting that dishonesty vibe versus this guy's genuine, he's honest, sounds like he has great integrity. Learn a little bit about their family or gal. I'm not just saying guys, I'm using it as a standard term. And because these are attributes I can't train somebody to have. Good work ethic, integrity, honest, works hard, plays well with others. You're never going to see those on a resume.
No.
You'll see all the things they could do that were tactile or taught, but not those things. So learn that person because they're going to fit your culture a lot better if they have those attributes. I have a rule that we almost never, and I say almost because we had two guys that we hired early on that are still with us, that they are phenomenal what they do, but we almost never hire sales that have done roofing sales in the past because I don't want somebody else's bad habits to infiltrate our environment because that can affect our culture. Yep. And so I'll hire for those attributes. I have a retired firefighter, a radiologist, a teacher, a billboard construction crew boss for 16 years. By the way, he's been my top salesman many years, by $4 million in revenue. A construction science degreed student out of the local university that never sold a thing in his life, but just personality was amazing. Like energy was awesome. I knew he was just going to kill anything we put in front of him, and he has. So these are just examples of titles that we've hired that were not, but something about their personality, the way they carried themselves, the way they answered questions. And our turnover is almost nothing in our company, which that's something we're very proud of, because when we have to let somebody go, I feel like we failed.
Absolutely.
And so,
we have to take responsibility, giving them every opportunity to succeed as we possibly can. And I think a lot of companies fail there. They just throw people out there and hope they work, and it doesn't work. But you have to own that as a leader. You got to have a system in place. You got to be able to train people. You got to, be able to hold them accountable and create an environment where they can succeed. And if you don't do that, that's your fault that they didn't work out. You can't just keep hiring 10 people and hope one of them works. Like that. That doesn't work, man. This doesn't work this way. And I love that because, I'm a huge believer in that. And it's something I learned from a mentor of mine, and I've incorporated in everything I do and in our training, everything. But hire character, train skills. Hire character, train skills. Find the character. Focus on the character side. You can always teach skills to people. So I love that, man. This has been an awesome time. I'm sure we could probably just go for a couple more hours, but love hanging out with you, man. I know you're a busy man. You guys got a lot going on with the family. Happy Father's Day to you.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for taking some time out of your day to hang out with us today. We'll do this again soon, my man.
Love it.
Take care, everybody. God bless.
Hey, everybody, check out Roofing Academy.
Oh, thank you, man. Appreciate that. I didn't pay him for that. Well, maybe I will.
No, he didn't.
All right, everybody. Take care. Let's have a good one.
Take care.